and I know just who to talk to about this and these numbers. Please welcome to the show America's accountant, Dan Geltrude. Dan, thank you very much for tackling this with me. But it's like if they sneeze in Europe, we catch a cold here. They've gone green before we did. They've got problems before we've had them. So there's a lot to learn about what might be coming our way. And now Germany's going to run out of liquid natural gas.
Well, the difference is, Scott, listen, I don't disagree with what you said. However, I do want to say this. Europe's fate is not necessarily ours. Why? Because if we choose to, we can be energy independent. Europe does not have that ability. So that's the big difference. Now, we are choosing to have policies in this country that, yes, puts us on the same plane with Europe, which does not make sense. Look, fossil fuels are not the enemy, because if you don't believe that, let's get rid of fossil fuels right now. And Scott, me and you are sitting here in the dark as well as the rest of the country. So let's apply a little bit of common sense here and understand that we cannot go to alternative energy right away because it simply can't meet the demand that we have for fossil fuels.
And isn't it funny? I bring this up a lot, and I have to do it again, but, a part of the knock-on effect from the fossil fuel problem has been, say, fertilizer costs have been going through the roof. So we've got gasoline costs going through the roof, and they want to send us over to wind and solar, which are those types of energies, wind and solar versus fossil fuel, they're two different energies. You can't compare them, and they're not fungible, right? Which means you can't substitute one for the other that easily. But then they go ahead and do it with farming and other industries, say with fertilizer. They want us to move over to compost and manure. I mean, that's how laughable it is now, where we've got that as an actual policy. Now, we can't run the country on wind and solar and compost and manure. We just can't do it. I mean, how far down the GDP list do you want us to fall?
You're exactly right. Again, these things don't even make sense. The only people they make sense to is the fringe left. When you start throwing out these talking points of, well, we're just going to get rid of fossil fuels and we're going to move to solar and we're going to move to wind. I mean, that's so not feasible. I don't know if it's ever feasible in terms of years down the line. I'm sure we'll do a better job with clean energy, but I don't see right now how we're going to replace our thirst for fossil fuel with these alternatives. Now, let me also say this, Scott. I don't actually believe that the United States has an energy problem. I know it sounds crazy. We have a policy problem, because if we did change policy back to what was with the prior administration, and I'm not saying Trump was perfect, I'm just saying he had better energy policies, and we could see how it's playing out right now, that worked. That kept inflation lower. If you're going to have prices rising for fuel, especially diesel, completely out of control, Scott, and as we bring products and services from point A to point B using diesel fuel, everything is going to continue to get more and more expensive. Common sense.
I think that refinery billionaire John Katzmanitis, I think I'm saying his name right, but he's on the East Coast. He's got a lot of grocery stores in New York, as well as he's also a billionaire refiner, oil refiner. And he's been warning, and he was over the weekend on some shows. He did the rounds, but last week in print, he says there's going to be a diesel fuel shortage on the East Coast this year. Now, diesel fuel globally, Dan, I'm sure you know this, but that's what the supply chain lives on. We can't afford, it's already bad enough with the shutdowns with some of these supply chains, but if we have to shut them down because we don't have enough diesel fuel, it's the blood and the oxygen that makes these things run. We're in trouble.
Well, we're in big trouble. I heard that same commentary about a potential shortage for diesel fuel, and you know what my reaction was? What's next? Locust? This is crazy in terms of how things are just, the dominoes just keep falling in terms of things are getting worse and worse and worse. Are we the only ones that see this? Of course not.
I don't know.
Everyone's feeling it, but nobody actually wants to step forward and take on the extreme left and say, let's stop the nonsense. Let's actually put some policies in place that make sense, and we'll work on cleaning things up over time. It's not that it's not important. Clean atmosphere, very important, but we can't do it overnight.
And, just to end it like that, that's perfect. We're not politicizing the rain. We're not politicizing the air. Those are just the numbers. We don't have enough diesel. Germany doesn't have enough liquid natural gas. So if that's the case, that's not politicizing anything. It just is what it is. And so we have to get on a policy that takes away those problems and those numbers, because it's just common sense. And as you know, I own commonsensocrat.com, and someday I'm going to do something with that. But I think that's where more of us are finally going to end up going. I love that commentary. Great stuff. Dan Geltrude coming to us from Nutley, New Jersey. Thank you very much for being on the show.